elementary sense of life or death, good or evil, right or wrong. I met this 6-year-old child with this blank, pale, emotionless face, the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. I spent 8 years trying to reach him, and then another 7 trying to keep him locked up because I realized that what was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil.
And what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Let's Talk Movies. I'm Brad.
I'm Miguel.
And this is episode number 4 of Purely and Simply Evil, where we are taking a classic look at 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and today, horror movies. I screwed that up. I don't know why I said it like that. But we're checking out classic horror movies, and tonight we are going to check out Paul W.S. Anderson's 1997 sci-fi horror flick, Event Horizon.
Big old request right there. A lot of people were asking about that movie.
It was. You are super laggy right now. Is your connection okay?
Let me see. No, obviously not.
Whoa.
Let me double check that real quick.
You look like you're having a rough time over there.
Am I looking better?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good deal.
Yeah, it looks a lot better. Guys, welcome to the show. This was one of our very talked about. Strangely, a lot of people requested this. So as this for an episode to do. And we're going to be talking about the film in this Purely and Simply Evil episode, but our full commentary, which we just did yesterday, as I said in our commentary, what better way to celebrate Thanksgiving and giving thanks than to watch a sci-fi horror film that night. So our full commentary of Event Horizon will drop tomorrow evening at 5:00 p.m. because I got to switch it up on you guys, but I got to keep you on your toes. So that'll drop at 5 p.m. and that'll be a good time. So, and it was cool because neither one of us had ever seen that movie. It was one that had been on my list for a really long time because I know it is a fan favorite. I know a lot of people love Event Horizon.
We knew nothing about this movie.
We really didn't. And
we really didn't know jack shit about this movie.
Very purposely, I didn't really dive into any of what it was about. I didn't really look into it very much because I kind of wanted to go in and be blindsided because, and Miguel and I kind of talked about this before we went in and started watching this thing. Like, it's one of those films where I feel like it was really hyped up for us. And I've heard so many people talk about it and so many people love it. It wasn't successful when it released originally in 97, but I think it's a Halloween 3. Over time, it's gained its cult following and people have really, really started to love it. And again, I kind of have my opinions on it. It was interesting. It was a fun watch. So, but I'm glad we got to watch it. So, buddy, how are you doing tonight, Miguel?
Doing good. Survived from all that fucking food. And we're still going. Guys, I hope you guys have enough leftovers from Thanksgiving. If you guys are celebrating Thanksgiving, I hope you're still chowing down with all the leftovers because we have plenty.
We do.
It was funny because we had Thanksgiving dinner, and I shit you not, as soon as we were done with dessert, I literally just went to the sofa and just knocked.
He did.
Really
we had Thanksgiving together, the three of us, and Miguel fell asleep on my couch for about a half hour after we.
I really did.
So
Julia, you know how to cook. You know how to send a man to sleep.
Yeah. So also, guys, sorry for our late start. I know
that was all Brad. Brad.
It was me, and I'll take the blame for that one. We had gotta get those Black Friday deals. We had our cars worked on a little bit today, so we got new tires and stuff like that, and just maintenance stuff. Let's see how you guys are doing in the chat. Art Wishwood is in the house. You're 15 minutes late. Yeah, I know.
No, 30 minutes late.
We ended up being about 25 minutes late. Your future mod is pissed. Sorry, buddy. We don't want you to be pissed. Event Horizon is no Halloween, but I'll tolerate it for you guys. Yeah, this was.
Yeah, it is no Halloween. I mean, we steered away from Halloween this week. We did.
Yeah, and
But
we
got some
did
in the
watch a
pipeline.
Halloween film too. So, our as promised, our next 2 episodes are episode 4 is Event Horizon, episode 5 will be on Halloween 4. And then after Halloween 4, we're going to take a break from the Halloween stuff for a little while. We'll come back to it obviously. But I think we're going to try to do some Christmas horror films too. So, not sure what yet. If you guys have any recommendations, I know, I mean, obviously there's Black Christmas. The Shining will probably do It's Me, Billy, just because it's that good. Misery. I mean, there's a lot of options. Silent Night, Deadly Night, Krampus. There's a lot of options, and we're not going to get through all of them, but we're going to try to get through a couple of them because I think it's kind of cool to go with the seasons, like doing some of the Friday the 13th in the summer and
Yeah,
doing
it is cool.
Halloween's like at that time. You know what I mean? That's
Mhm.
kind of cool.
Because
So,
I mean, obviously, all these scary movies don't have to take place in Halloween.
right.
I mean, most of them take place in different seasons of the year. So I mean, this would be
Yeah.
interesting because if we do a seasonal one, Krampus, I've never seen Krampus, so I
I
would
haven't
love to
either.
check that out. Obviously, we've seen It's Me, Billy, and Black Christmas.
Mhm.
So I mean, we could check that out again. I would love to
Yeah.
do a double take on it.
We haven't
after a
done
while.
commentaries for those films, so we'll definitely do commentaries, and we'll see where we end up with our Christmas horror. So
Yeah.
so let's get into this thing. Let's talk Event Horizon because
Okay.
again, one of our very requested watches, which is kind of interesting. So if you've never seen Event Horizon, stars Lawrence Fishburne and Sam Neill. There's a spacecraft that resurfaces in the year 2047 under very mysterious circumstances, and a team of investigators led by Lawrence Fishburne. His name is Captain Miller, and the spaceship's creator, Dr. Weir. Am I correct? Is it Weir?
Yeah, Dr. Weir.
Dr.
Played
Weir,
by
who was
Sam Neill.
Yep, Sam Neill. They travel into
Dr.
deep
Grant!
space. Dr. Grant! They
Dr.
travel
Grant!
into deep space to investigate the wreckage, and they're trying to rescue any survivors. But of course, little did they know, all hell is broken loose. Literally, this was described to me as Hellraiser in space, and it did live up to that. But there's this like interdimensional hell-based threat that's on the abandoned ship, and the cool thing is that it uses their worst fears and memories against them, and that's really, really cool. So if you've never seen Event Horizon, that's kind of the main plot. That's the gist of it. We are going to talk about spoilers, and I know this movie is literally almost 25 years old, so I mean, like,
So don't feel upset
I
if
know.
you get spoiled by this movie.
If you haven't seen
it,
it,
get out of my face.
if you haven't seen it by now, then I don't know.
What are you
whatever.
doing watching this one?
Then you're like us, and you just don't really care.
Yeah.
So Art says, "Who the hell requested this? They're not even."
I know, right? But that's fine. I remember my friend Ryan. So hopefully he'll check this out tomorrow. He's been ever since he heard that I was doing a movie podcast and we started this Purely and Simply Evil. He told me, he said, dude, you got to do Event Horizon. You got to let me know what's going on. You got to let me know your reactions. And I said, all right, well, pretty soon we'll get to it. And here we are. So, Ryan, this is for you. If I see you tomorrow, don't rip my head off if you don't like my opinion on this movie. So, we're going to go with it. And what's your sour face, man? What's going on with you?
Okay, this is a real side note. I had hot chocolate the other night.
This man.
And it was delicious, but it was homemade hot chocolate. It was delicious. And we have this Nestle thing of hot chocolate, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to try it. I'm not really a hot chocolate guy, but I was like, I liked it the other night. It was good. This Nestle hot chocolate, ugh, it's not good.
Well,
It's
I'm
not
sorry
good
to
at
hear
all.
that. I'm surprised you got hot chocolate other than a beer,
No,
which,
no.
I mean, obviously, guys, I checked on it. I checked it off my list.
I drank enough beer yesterday. I need to not. I need to
know.
drink some water and take a break.
I think the past 2 weeks, past 2 times I came over to your place, I've like supplied you with so much alcohol just from me buying like a 6-pack or 2. So yeah, you're pretty stocked up, ain't you,
Except
buddy?
for that Iron Bastard or whatever it's called. That's disgusting. What is it called?
Oh yeah, Dirty Bastard.
Dirty. Yeah. It's disgusting.
I don't want to keep throwing that thing down since that's like a local brewery. But
I keep telling myself I'm gonna try it again, and I haven't. I still haven't. But man, I think I'd prefer that over this nasty Nestle. I don't know. I'm whatever. Anyways, Event Horizon. So a little bit of backstory. So Paul W.S. Anderson I feel like Sophia Petrillo. Picture it. Paul
Picture
W.S. Anderson was fresh off of Mortal Kombat, which was a huge success in the United States. And it kind of makes it cool because he was a director from the UK. So that was kind of a cool, big moment for him. This was Event Horizon is kind of considered to be cursed by the cast and crew, because I think it was a very there were a lot of issues. It was rushed by Paramount. There were disagreements on the script and the story. I know there was a big issue with the editing. I believe I remember reading last night that they did a test screening of the full film. And I mean, this was like Paul W.S. Anderson's director's cut of this film. And it disturbed audiences so much that they had to cut stuff out. Like they had to get rid of things. And we even mentioned this, and you'll hear that in our commentary tomorrow when it drops. Like there are moments that feel very like what happened, like, but I feel like we missed something here. Like there was blood, like there was a whole section of blood on the wall that we never got to know where it came from. Do you know what I'm talking about? In their control room, on the bridge.
That's the scene that everyone was telling me about. It was telling me about like how that scene was supposed to be like the pivotal change of like the atmosphere of the entire movie, and the entire time I was hoping to get some type of explanation. We kind of got an explanation of it, but it wasn't enough to like understand exactly what happened. And I guess there's one thing we both of us probably agree with was it felt really choppy.
It did.
Scenes between one another just felt like to jump from one to another with no sense of linear storytelling. So I felt very out of place every time it changed scenery. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that there were two big issues, and I know we just said that the editing was an issue. The way this film was cut together, and I believe Paul W.S. Anderson has said like he would love to go back and do like the cut of this movie, like a Snyder cut thing. But I don't think they know. Yeah. I don't think they know where the footage is. I don't know if it got lost or if it was thrown away or whatever. I mean, I don't know if they know where the lost footage is. But this film, how do I put it? I think, and this kind of makes sense because Paul Anderson really wanted to play off of like the fear of the unknown factor, and really like you kind of don't know what's going on. And I believe that he actually said that a lot of, or the writers of this film actually said a lot of the inspiration came from Kubrick's The Shining, which I get. I see, honestly, after I read that, I was like, oh, I see that. I see The Shining a little bit in this movie. The way some of the things are shot. You actually mentioned there's one scene when Sam Neill is imagining his the dead wife in the bathroom or whatever, and it's like there's a long hallway scene that just kind of like extends, like you're running down the hallway or something like that. And that kind of like thinking about things like that, I'm like, yeah, that does kind of seem Shining-ish, or like
that type of movement. I love that type of camera shot or that type of shot, but it just because it fucked with my mind so hard. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, it's like a close up of whoever's being shot, but in the background it's being like it's like going back. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, that scene right there, I'll probably chop that shit up really bad. Yeah. But that type of like shot just looks so interesting to me, and it was. I think that's like a good shot for like every horror movie to express like true fear or true like true surprise moment, like true like shock factor,
right,
so to speak. So like it made sense for Dr. Weir to be in that scene because in this movie he's constantly plagued by his wife, which again I have no idea what happened to his wife. We know what happened to his wife, but we don't know why. We don't know why that happened. We don't know what pushed her to do that. And so every time I kept seeing his wife, it was frightening, obviously, but there was no sense of like understanding why she was there other than the fact that the ship is just fucking with your head. Simple as that.
Well, here's the thing. I forget the writer's name. Let me see if I can get it. Philip Eisner wrote this. I believe he said that when they pitched this to Paul W.S. Anderson to direct, they pitched it as a haunted house story in space, but like with a twist. And that's cool. I think Event Horizon is a really cool concept for a film. It's really, really cool. The whole, this interdimensional presence, I guess you could call it, that it has possessed this ship. And it's kind of possessed Sam Neill, spoiler alert, into wanting to keep them here and wanting to bring them through the black hole into this other dimension. The whole concept of why we saw Sam Neill's wife, the whole the woman, I forget their name, seeing her son, her little boy, and Captain Miller when he saw the person he left behind. Like, I think that's a really, really cool concept of it using your head against you and using your worst fears and your worst memories against you. But the issue is this film tries so hard to build atmosphere. It's the same kind of thing that I've said with Halloween 2. There's so many atmospheric shots that it's almost like, okay, move on. You know what I mean? I think the climax of Event Horizon could, like, when it all really hit the fan, I feel like that could have happened 20 minutes before it did.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many things that could have been cut out of this movie. And again, maybe that director's cut where there's more footage, it would make a little bit more sense. But it seems choppy, but it's almost like they left in things that they should have cut out, and they cut out things that probably should have. And again, I don't know that because we don't know what that lost footage looks like.
Yeah,
but I almost feel like there could have been better choices in terms of what we were shown.
Yeah,
Does that
exactly.
make sense?
Yeah, which is one is connecting with each one of the crew. Yeah, it gave each member of that crew some sort of exposition or backstory, but it didn't really give enough to the point where I was like, oh, okay, I see why he or she is being troubled by the ship. And one of the ones that I was continually like confused with was what's his name? The one who committed suicide by decompression.
Was his name Paul?
Paul? I think so.
Maybe
Paul.
I think it was Paul.
Well, we'll go with Paul. Sorry,
Hi,
guys.
I'm Paul.
But in the scene and whenever they get to the ship and they're investigating, Paul is he finds the reactor which creates the black hole of this ship, because the way this ship is able to get through is able to cross so many miles or so many light years away from different planets is by, instead of traveling faster than the speed of light, which is obviously not the case, which is not possible, what they do is that they create a black hole that pretty much creates point A and point B together so that they don't have much of a travel to get to. And in doing so, they have to cross through a different dimension just to get to point B. And to be able to do that, they had to create a black hole, which is what that mechanism was. So that's
when when those three rings like align.
When they align, it creates the black hole.
Black hole.
Yeah, which still doesn't really catch my head, or I guess it doesn't really make sense to me yet. But nevertheless, Paul, he's the one that comes into contact first of this black hole, and obviously it activates, and he stupidly just says, black hole, let me put my finger in it. I was like, what?
There was no like sketchiness. He was like, what does this do?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like a kid in a store that just has to like pick up and touch everything. You know what I mean? Like, he was just like, and
I feel like if I was in space, or if I was like an astronaut or whatever the fuck they were, if I saw something that was out of the ordinary, out of my realm of reality, I would want to stay as far away of it as possible, which is why I love Captain Miller in this movie.
It's already sketchy enough. Like, you just got on board and found everybody dead, and you're just like, touch. you know?
So with Paul, obviously he gets sucked into the black hole, and Cooper is able to rescue him, pull him out of the black hole, but then that's it.
Yeah.
It's just he's in a comatose state, and then all of a sudden he wakes up and he's talking about the darkness, and
The Dark Man.
the dark man. He's just thrown off by it that he unfortunately
Yeah.
had to commit suicide, and that right there, it was spooky enough because it's like we don't know what he's scared of. Like, what is he scared of?
Right.
What scared him so much that he needed to do that?
It's the unknown factor
Yeah,
again.
but there's a line where it's like the unknown, but you know what it is. Like you have an idea of what it is,
Right.
as compared to like, well, what the fuck was it?
Well, and this I guess in my head, like, yes, at the end of the film, again, spoiler alert, you get if okay, like the I think I left it on the yeah, Sam Neill over here sitting there in the chair with the gun. You get his strange, like, pinhead looking self. But and I guess he's kind of the embodiment of what it is, but he's also not it. You know what I mean? He's not the thing. He is not like the presence. It's almost like this thing is just a presence. We don't ever really get an explanation of what it is. I mean, there's a lot of imagery. There's a lot of, Paul saying the dark. There's a lot of references to it being hell, like it's a gateway to hell. It's not, like we talked about before, a lot of people kind of compared this film to Hellraiser taking place in space. And while that is the same, we never really got a pinhead or the Cenobites. Like, there was never a physical representation of what it was. Even, and again, I don't really consider Sam Neill's character at the end to be a representation of it. It was almost like it was using Sam Neill to get what it wanted. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he was a what's the phrase? A channel of the darkness. Which is the best way I could think about it.
Right.
And I think that's just based off of, Sam Neill, Dr. Weir just being so enthusiastic of him finding his ship and knowing that it could do this interstellar travel. He was more excited with that. And when it came down to the whole, like, representing the darkness, or so to speak, there was no, like, true, like, explanation, which I get. Obviously, fear of the unknown, but you created the darkness had such an effect on the previous crew, the one that disappeared and the one that they're trying to rescue, and to the crew that we all know in this movie. It created such an effect to them that it's like, well, we need to know what happened, because it seems kind of out of place for them just to show up and then they lose their mind completely.
Yep, I agree.
Like, and the only explanation we got was the ship is alive, and that's
exactly. And again,
while that is creepy, it doesn't really hit the mark, so to speak.
It's
in my
so
head.
ambiguous that it's almost like, okay, it's not like what. And again, it's kind of the same thing. Maybe, I don't know. I know some people want a sequel, some people want a remake, and that kind of even brings me J-Dead. What's going on, my friend? Glad to see you in here, by the way. I saw you a minute ago. Just didn't get a chance. Event Horizon is a perfect movie for a remake with a bigger budget, better ending, and less CGI. It could be a freaking great horror film. I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Yes.
Completely agree.
I think that scene, again, that I was told about so much, about like when the lightning struck and then it was the complete bloody dead in the background. I feel like if we would have gotten like a redone of that today, that would have been immensely more frightening. Seeing Sam Neill being consumed by the darkness, and just the whole atmosphere of it would have been a lot more scarier, because obviously, if we're being honest, guys, this movie felt like Spy Kids, so to speak, with the CGI. That's
not
wrong?
what I would have compared it to. But the CGI?
Yeah, the CGI. God. Yeah, not the movie, guys. Calm down. But the CGI of that was in the movie felt like Spy Kids. I was sitting here and I looked at Brad and I would be like, that's a 3D moment right there. They totally made that for it to be in 3D. You know what I mean?
Do you think that was like cutting edge for the 90s?
It 100% was. It really was. And
I mean, do you think it really looked good in the 90s, or do you think that was still kind of like
in the 90s, dude, we were freaking out with like our PC computers. Like yeah, we thought that shit was insane.
That's fair.
Back then. Star Trek, or the TV show with Star Trek and all the other stuff, like that show was like next gen. Like that was dope.
Yeah.
But looking
Yeah.
at it now, it's pretty fucking cheesy. So I totally
Yeah.
get that. I totally understand. I thought Spy Kids, the CGI in Spy Kids was absolutely insane.
It for the time it was.
Yeah.
I just want to say, see you, J-Did. Thanks so much, buddy. You have a great weekend as well. So take care at work. Have a good shift at work. So try to enjoy. But yeah, man. Here's the thing. I think Event Horizon is an incredible concept that was executed not poorly, but not to its full potential. And again,
it wasn't executed in its full potential. Yeah.
If we would have gotten Paul W.S. Anderson's full cut of the movie, maybe it would have been. Maybe we'd sit back and be like, "Holy crap, that was actually incredible."
And the fact that the initial test screening was so it had such a shock on the audience.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that cut probably would have explained so much more and really would have made it even more frightening.
Right,
and
more disturbing, because then you kind of know a little, even if you only know a piece of it, you know a little bit of what's going on.
Yeah, I feel like that cut probably had one information or one scene in that movie that probably would have helped made this movie even more frightening. Yeah. And I think that was unfortunately cut out because it was probably just too much.
Also, that's another thing. A lot of people were like, "Oh, it's terrifying. It's disturbing."
You got to think.
I actually kind of expected a little bit more gore and a little bit more Hellraiser-ish stuff. It wasn't that disturbing. I didn't really think it was that disturbing. I really didn't. I mean, the worst, probably my favorite kill was when she turns around and the guy, his skin is all he's hanging by his skin or whatever. That was pretty nasty. That was gross. But really, everything else was not there wasn't anything that was made my jaw drop. You know what I mean? There was nothing that really blew my mind. And that's kind of the thing with this movie. I was kind of thinking about it on the way home. I kind of expected this movie to blow my mind and be like, wow, I've been really missing out. Because again, it's been on my list for a long time to watch it. It has been. But for whatever reason, it just didn't do it. It didn't blow my mind, and really, it didn't do it for me. It was just kind of it was okay. It was fine. I mean, I had a good time watching it, but I'm not racing to watch it again. And again, maybe when I do watch it, maybe a year or so down the road again, maybe I'll be like, it's kind of grown on me. I dig it. But my biggest disappointment with it is it drags on too much. It really does. There are so many lingering shots of space or imagery or scenery, a long hallway or just things that I felt didn't need. They weren't really adding anything anymore. And again, I think those shots are useful. I think it's useful to show kind of the space, because when you see, the Lewis and Clark, which was the ship that they flew to the Event Horizon on, then the Event Horizon, and then what was it, Neptune?
Yeah, it was.
And then you see Neptune behind them. It's really wow, they're just way out there in space, and that's kind of scary because it's there's nobody coming to save you. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
there's also one thing I wanted to mention was you mentioned space and setting the atmosphere. They really spent their time to set the atmosphere and how massive this place is, or how massive Event Horizon is. But then we only had 4 scenes, 4 settings. You know what I mean? You had the medic bay, the captain bay, the reactor,
and then the bridge, right?
And then the bridge. Yeah, just 4. We only have 4 scenes or 4 settings in such a massive ship. They really took time to say the Event Horizon was probably the biggest ship that they made and the fastest. And without a doubt, it had to be the most technologically advanced.
Yeah.
So, but they didn't. It wasn't really. It wasn't expanded enough whenever they officially got in. It was just another ship. So that right there was a little bit of a letdown. I was hoping the Event Horizon to be much more expansive than what we got, instead of just the 4 scenes that we just kept switching back and forth to over and over. So
Right.
that's kind of one thing that I was kind of like disappointed with, was the fact that they took the time to make this expansive like setting, but then they only use like 4,
Yeah.
which is what really caught me off guard.
Yeah. I don't know. It's not a bad film. It's not. I mean, honestly, I mean, what was the? It had a $60 million budget. It had a decent budget, and I'm sure that's why we get so many of the CGI shots. But it only made $42 million at the box office, so it didn't really do critically as well as they wanted it to. And again, it's like a Halloween 3. It sucked at the time, but over the years, it's become a cult classic, and I know people adore this movie. But yeah, again, and I keep coming back to the pacing. That's the one thing. Honestly, the beginning of the film, they did a good job of hooking you. Like the whole when it's talking about like
when they're on the Lewis and Clark and they're like prepping, they're like doing briefing on coming to the Event Horizon, right?
The whole briefing thing was cool. Samuel kind of gives you the backstory of what happened. And that was a really cool scene. I was hooked. I mean, it was a good beginning. The first 15, 20 minutes of the film was great. I enjoyed it. The opening, when you get like the subtitle things that are moving across and it's supposed to be like futuristic and all that, you know what I mean? Which of course, like when it says like 2015,
when it said that, I was
or whatever,
laughing my ass off.
And then like 2032 or whatever is like the
they said like
goes missing, or it was
and then 2040. They're in the year of 2040, and it made me think. I was like, God damn, we're a little bit behind, guys, in our technology. If that's the case.
It's first of all, it's funny to see 2015, and that was like futuristic. But it's just, I don't know. I liked the beginning. I really did. I was like, this is gonna be kind of cool. And then it was just like, as the movie went on,
didn't really hook you in.
It lost me until the end. It was like I really enjoyed the beginning. The middle, I was completely lost, and then the end, I was like, okay, we're back. There were a lot of really cool things. Once people started dying, that sounds awful, doesn't it? But seriously, like once stuff started to hit the fan, once we had like the plot was rolling again, like we finally made it over the hump of the roller coaster. I thought it was really cool. Once we realized why we were seeing Sam Neill's wife. Once, like even the scene with Lawrence Fishburne when he's telling Lucius Malfoy about
his crew member that he lost.
Yeah, the soldier that he left behind.
That was the only one where I truly felt frightened, because
Lawrence
Fishburne actually gave his
It made sense. That backstory was there. So it was like when you see his buddy rise up and he's on fire and he's like, "You left me behind." Blah, blah, blah. Like that's kind of like, oh damn, like that. You know what I mean? That the emotional response is there because they gave you the backstory.
Yeah, but and it made Johnny Storm look even more frightening. Honest to God.
And honestly, Johnny Storm. Honestly, even the woman, we didn't need a backstory.
No,
the one with her
woman
son worked.
That son didn't really. It didn't fit with me, because I knew in the beginning of the movie that she was upset because her ex is like taking her son and blah 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 blah. But that was it. That's all I heard. And then it talked about like, and then next thing you know, she said something about her son having like terminal. So other than that, like, it didn't really make sense for me to see the kid running around. And again, like if I was in a ship light years away from Earth and I saw my son running through the ship, in my head, I wouldn't be thinking, that's Jerry, I need to go get him. I'd be thinking, nah, that's in my head, because Jerry is 400 million light years away from me right now with my ex-husband. So that's definitely not him. This is in my head. And that's what I will have to talk about this in a second, because that's why I loved Lawrence Fishburne's character in this movie, because he had such a respectful, realistic perspective of the situation at hand. Like he had the best reactions.
He was very in the moment.
Yeah, you know, he took situations, analyzed it, and says, okay, this is the route we're going to have to take. Because one thing I will say that this movie truly frightened me with was the recordings of the previous crew of what happened with
Yes,
the
that was scary.
with the
And it looked
Liberate
scary too.
Tomate, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the actual recording video log of what happened to the crew.
Right.
Like those two were probably the most frightening to me. I would have much rather have seen more of that within the movie instead of the crew just finding all of these things.
Yeah.
And I bring those two up because each time those were brought up, Lawrence Fishburne was like, "Yep, okay, we're leaving."
Yeah.
Like as soon as he saw the video log of what happened, he said,
Yep.
"All right, guys, we're going."
You don't
That
want
was,
to know
like,
why it
perfect.
happened? Nope.
Nope, no reason. Yeah, Neil, Dr. Weir was like, "What? You don't know? You don't want to know exactly what happened?" And Lawrence was like, "Fuck no, we need to get out of here. We're suffocating, and there's a demon on this ship. We need to get the fuck out of Dodge."
Well,
So,
even
yeah.
kind of going back to the lady though, like her emotional response of seeing her son almost it hit home in the way that Lawrence Fishburne's did, because while we didn't have like the same backstory, like we didn't get a whole monologue from her about her son, but it's still a mother-son relationship, and like it makes sense for her to be that emotionally attached. You know what I mean? The problem with Sam Neill's wife is that we never got any explanation. We just kept seeing her and we didn't know why. Like the first time at the beginning of the film when he like wakes up out of hypersleep or whatever, and she turns around just butt naked in the chair, and it was just kind of like, it was like, what did that, like, where did, what? Like, how, that didn't even make any sense. Like, why is she sitting naked in the chair like that?
Yeah, yeah. His
So
wife
that
was
was
probably
kind of
one of the most confusing
it was. For me, it was.
illusions of the movie, without a doubt. Because yes, we
I would agree.
understand that she unfortunately committed suicide in her house, but it just why is Dr. Greer feeling guilty about that? Like is it because he's been out in space for too long and she wasn't around as much? Like I didn't really understand why.
He did say like I chose my job, like my job was more important than you or whatever, like, you know what I mean? Like he had like an obsession with his work or whatever, and like it was more important than his love life, than like, you know, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
But you know, and I will say, and another thing that I really enjoyed about the movie was the I thought the gore was done very well. The gore we did get, I thought it was done very, very well. I did get Hellraiser vibes, like the guy with the skin hanging. That was probably my favorite death scene from it. Another really, really cool thing, when they finally got the gravity back on and the dead, crispy, crunchety body was like floating around.
Yeah.
When he was frozen because it's so cold, when he dropped and shattered, it was like a real Jason X moment. You know what I mean? When when he like dips her head in the coolant and then smashes it on the counter, like it was that kind of same moment. Did you have a favorite like death scene or kill scene or, you know, gore shot of the movie? A special effects shot?
I would say my favorite one would have to be Paul or Little Bear, Baby Bear.
Honestly,
yeah, with the
that was strange
decompression.
too.
Yeah,
Honestly,
that one was probably one of my favorite because that one really put a lot of tension in the movie. Like that was probably where there was so much tension in one scene because you were hoping that he was like gonna like come to his senses and get out, but fortunately he doesn't. Even though it's like one of the most tension driven scenes in the movie, it loses its impact whenever you see how it all plays out, because
they should have just had him die.
Yeah, they should have just
would have
had
been
him
more
like
impactful.
But one thing is like, just I don't know what it was in the 90s, but I guess there were just very little scientific consulting, so to speak. Like there was no sense of like reality in that scene alone.
Dude, the minute his body would have hit open space,
as soon as that
would've been
door would have opened, he would have been sucked out immediately. That right there is much scarier than him just, decompressing and his blood just coming out of his eyes. Yeah, that's scary. I'm sure in the 90s, but one thing that scientists love to say, like, you know, people like Neil deGrasse Tyson, they say when people try to make space seem scary, just be honest. Space is
Yeah.
scary.
Right.
Just space in general. Take out interdimensional travel, take out interdimensional space demons. Space is absolutely frightening because it's just complete Wild West. Like anything and everything can kill you if you're not careful. So I feel like if they would have at least brought more of reality to that instead of having Lawrence just pushing him back into it and then closing the door, like no. He like poor little baby bear would have been sucked out like a cherry in a milkshake and just eaten away without a doubt. Just sucked into space, just turned into complete mush, just absolutely
A
gone.
cherry in a milkshake. Oh my god.
You know what I'm talking about. You know
I
when you get a
do.
milkshake and you have that cherry. Yeah.
Art says that was my favorite Jason X kill. Oh, the lady with
Yeah,
the lady
yeah.
where he slams her. Yeah,
That's
that was
probably
a good kill, man.
that was probably one of the
It was a
worst
good
ones
scene.
I could think of. That one, and whenever they find Jason and he just
That
falls
is-
down frozen and he cuts the guy's arm. That
Listen,
one right there was pretty frightening.
it's a cool scene.
Yeah.
But I cannot stand Jason X. I hate that movie. I
That's
can't
in
make
the
it.
90s too, right?
I can't. Yeah, I can't make it through it.
There's
Honestly,
something-
no. Don't quote me. Nope, 2001.
Oh, okay.
I thought it might
There's
have been
something
2000.
in that span where like everything had to go to space.
It
You know what I
just
mean?
didn't do it for me. It just does not. I don't know why. I know people. I'm probably gonna get crap in the comments because people are like, "You hate Jason X. You're not a real fan." It just.
You're
I don't
not.
know why. It just doesn't do it for me. Like I like Jason Goes to Hell 10 times better than I like Jason X. And I know Jason Goes to Hell is like an abomination. I'll admit that. But I don't know, man. Jason X is just. It's too too far removed. Like it doesn't feel. It's like I don't know. It just doesn't do it for me. It
It's
really
just the
does
fact.
not.
It's just the fact that they try to make space scary, but they made it so out of reality that it just, as someone that, you know, I'm not saying I'm like, you know, an astrophysics, but I do have my feet grounded to reality in regards to space. I know a good idea is what happens in space. And when I see these movies that take place and they try to make it scary, you know, with like space travel or just anything like that, when you try to make it scary, but trying to like remove reality out of it, it just doesn't do it for me. I end up losing much interest in the movie.
Well,
because like you take for instance, take a look at The Martian with
brilliant movie,
Matt
man.
Damon. It's a great movie
Brilliant.
because
Brilliant.
it's purely like depicted in reality of like what would happen if you were
Right.
stranded in Mars and it was just you. That's scary as fucking hell to
Mhm.
know that you're stranded. And the scene where he wakes up and his suit is, you know, compromised, and like at any point he's losing air and whatnot. The scene where the entire cabin explodes, like that's scary. That's
Yeah.
scary to know that at any point in any time shit can hit the fan and then your life is over like that.
Yep.
That right
Yep.
there would be 10 times scarier than a slasher in a mask coming after you in a space shuttle.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's a different kind of scary though. And again, it's something where it's the kind of thing that like a film like Event Horizon thrives on. It's like that unknown, because ultimately, you know, people who are afraid of space is cool, but at the end of the day, this is a very philosophical thing that I'm not going to dive into. But like, how do you explain space? Like, where does space go? Is there an end of space? What is space? You know what I mean? And that's kind of it. You almost can't wrap your brain around it as a human being, and that's where something like Event Horizon thrives. It's this presence, the dark, or what else did they? The dark, or what else did they call it?
I have no clue. It was
I don't
like
know.
space demons.
I know, whatever else, whether you want to say it's a ghost or the devil or a space demon or whatever it was that, possessed Sam Neill's character and was haunting the ship or controlling the ship. They don't need to explain it. It's almost like a metaphor for space, because space signifies the unknown. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Wow. Yeah. I agree with that.
Did I just say something really insightful? You kind of
Yeah, a
was like,
little
wow.
bit. If in regards
Yeah.
to the movie, it actually made it more like that made Event Horizon a little more interesting to know the way you said it.
Yeah, and I really respect that. That again, that's something that I really respect. My biggest issue about it, though, is the execution of that. It's just like, again, it's the way the movie was cut together. It was the pacing. It just felt like some of it drug on and on and on and on, and I was like, oh my god, where are we going? Like, what is this hallway? Like, why is Samuel crawling around this green room seeing his naked wife? Like what are, you know what I mean? It was just little things like that I was just like, go, like, get to the like, the not even get to the climax, but get to like a point of the plot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And again, and I think it's kind of a double-edged sword, because that's where a lot of these space movies, I think they try to go overboard, and like you said earlier, they almost try to they try to what's the best way to put it? They try
to exaggerate space.
Exactly. They try to make space scary, but it's already scary because it's space. It's the unknown. It's already scary enough. You don't need to do anything crazy. And again, I get the whole black hole to hell or another dimension. Like, that's fine. Like, you can do that. That's perfectly fine. That works for this story. But again, you can use The Martian. And honestly, I think The Martian is arguably the greatest space film ever made. I would say over 2001. I'm not that big of a fan of 2001.
No, I like 2001 because it was a beautiful film. It was very philosophical,
yes.
without a doubt.
Yes, and
but
it's definitely one of the. I mean, honestly, that's probably one of the most influential movies ever made.
Yeah, but in regards to like purely like accurate depiction of what space is, The Martian is it. Yes, I didn't hear what you said.
Absolutely. I'm sorry. You said something about purely, and I said and simple evil.
Yeah. But
yeah, man.
In regards to Event Horizon, I agree with Brad wholeheartedly now about how they were trying to depict space in Event Horizon, and yeah, thinking about that, it makes sense. Thinking about the movie now, but my main gripe though still is what Brad said the entire time, was just the pacing of the movie. Is that it spent so much time laying out the atmosphere, but not doing anything with it. Pretty much. It's like not, you say, here's this entire plane, here's this entire setting, but we're only restricted to 4 rooms in these like 6 or so crew.
But it wasn't even the space they played in for me, and I don't mean space like outer space. I mean like the space that, like, the location. It wasn't even that. But even some of the characters, like, I really appreciated that we had scenes with every single character, and I really appreciated that. Like, I really appreciate I appreciated like the little Cooper thing. Like Cooper was awesome. His funny little
I love
Cooper
in this
movie.
movie.
He'd be like out in space, like walking around like on the ship or something. He'd be like, "What the hell?" Like he would like just something funny or like, and I appreciated that. I appreciated that we got to know. I forget the actor's name. I call him Lucius Malfoy because that's all I see. But like, I appreciated that we got like those. I appreciated that we got scenes with every character, but I felt like not every scene and piece of dialogue we got with the characters mattered or really helped the plot move forward. Not that I'm not saying like we just have to be straight to the point all the time. That's not what I'm saying. But there was so much dialogue and so many moments that were just not, I felt like we weren't going anywhere. I was just like, what are we doing? You know, I spent the majority of the movie going like, where, like, what is going on? And that might have been the intent. But I don't know. It's an interesting, and again, that's actually, I feel like we hit on something really insightful here about like trying too hard to make space scary and like to not explain but exaggerate what space is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's a common thing with like a lot of space movies because again, it is the unknown. Like, you really don't know what's going on, and you're only limited to the knowledge that we have based on, researches that have done.
Right.
So, and that's, really limited. So you kind of have to go with that. And some filmmakers feel like that's not enough, and they need to just create this like completely
Yeah.
like unimaginable thing. Which, if I'm saying that, I'm pretty much knocking down all the great space films like Star Trek and Star Wars and Dune. That, on the other hand, that is, you are going past the realm of realism and just creating a story on your own in a setting.
Uh-huh.
Because for instance, with Star Wars and Star Trek, when they talk about warp speed and going to warp drive and all that stuff, that's like beyond our comprehension. That's
Right.
not physically possible. But whenever Sam Neill was talking about like interdimensional travel and doing from point A to point B, that is real. That is a real concept that astrophysicists and physicists have talked about.
Right.
Like, that's pretty much the description of a black hole. When you set that as a playing field, I want that to be elaborated more in layman's term. Obviously, don't give me the numbers because that's going to be a boring movie. But if you were to give it to me in layman's term and actually expand on that notion, instead of just saying, "Oh, well, we open this thing up and all of a sudden there's hell," doesn't really fly off.
Well,
it's a little too much on the nose for me. Like,
but to even
the fact of a black
of,
hole is just the fact that a black hole is the scariest thing in space.
Right.
It is the most frightening thing, because I think we just got a picture of a black hole like recently.
Yeah, we've got a few actually.
Yeah, and
absolute blackness.
Yeah, the knowledge that we have of black holes is if you even see one, you're gone. Like, your existence is shattered, because the black hole just sucks into everything. That makes it so much more scarier. But they scaled it down to be a utility, and they try to use it, and that's not necessarily what I think of a black hole, or at least from my knowledge that I've gathered, just from, watching scientists talk about space. That's not what I gathered with like black holes, which then again, who knows? Maybe in the 90s, black holes weren't really
right.
They weren't really
Exactly.
a research topic. Like, I'm sure in the 90s, we probably know far less than we do now.
But even if it was, I'm sure they just know more now. You know what I mean? So, I mean, and I don't know. And I think kind of what you were saying, like, to kind of piggyback off of what you said, if you're going to, you compared it to like a Dune or Star Wars or Star Trek. If you're going to really push the boundary of what's realistic, like warp speed, hyperspace, even some of the weapon, like, that's fine. But if you're going to push it. But if you're going to try to ride the line, you can't just like have random things that are just like, what the hell? Like, what? You know what I mean? If you're trying to ride that line of like what's realistic and what's not, that's a very fine line. And I don't know, like the scene with Paul, I feel like it would have been, it sounds terrible, but I mean, it is a horror show. Like if you would have seen his body implode, or if you would have seen, if that would have been a crazy death scene, I feel like that would have had so much more weight on the movie. But they saved him like 3 times. I was like, good, when is this guy gonna die? Like, I was like, they just saved him like 3 times.
Exactly.
They bring him back. Lawrence Fishburne gets him back in from like bleeding to death out every hole in his body, and Lucius Malfoy is like, I think I stopped the bleeding. I was like, what? I was like, this guy was just in open space, and you just like,
there's no saving you if you are automatically sucked into space. Which, by the way, in the climactic scene where it was like, whereas Dr. Weir, Fishburne, and Dr. Stark, when they're like fighting one another, and Dr. Weir shoots out the window. Like, I'm sorry, like, that's, they're dead.
Yeah.
Like, immediately, like, all of them would have been dead, 100%, except for Cooper, because Cooper has a suit and he's just flailing around and he's losing air. So obviously he was supposed to like run out of air like a long time ago. But when that glass was shattered, every single one of them should have died immediately. Everything in there would have been sucked out and just that would have been roll credits.
Well, they were like
immediately.
Yeah.
It really would have.
Could you imagine? It's like he shoots out the glass. Literally, he just shoots out the glass. And then it just right to it. Yeah, I don't know. Again, little things like that. If you're gonna ride the line of what's realistic, it's like you can't be like, this is set in realism and then be like,
now we're going somewhere else.
I mean, Sam Neill shot, or whoever it was, shot the glass when Cooper gets like blown up into space, and then or blown out, and of course he does the Iron Man thing and like propels himself back with his oxygen. But like, you can't shoot that glass and then be like, it's pressurizing and they're breathing and stuff. I was like, listen, if you shut that glass, there wouldn't be a drop of oxygen in that place. Like, you would be gone.
Yep. That's what makes it so fucking scary with space in real life. Because it's just at any point, if where you're at, that's compressed air and you have oxygen, if at any point there is a leak, oh, that's game over. Like, that's it. Nothing. Like, that's what that scene. Like, I'm gonna bring up The Martian a lot in this podcast, because whenever that cabin where he had all of his potatoes, as soon as it blew up, all the crops went dead, frozen. Everything just got sucked out. He was thrown 10 times to Norway, and just everything didn't work. Everything just went to shit. Like, that entire cabin was just completely dead. There was no getting back from it.
That's the other thing. Do you know how cold it is in space? It is cold.
Yes.
Like,
you would freeze to death. And one thing for sure, you would automatically be frozen, or like, I don't know how they explain it. Because they've talked about like what happens if all of a sudden you were just sucked into space. Like, there was a certain there is someone that talked about like what your body would experience. And what I saw in the movie, that wasn't the case, obviously. But nonetheless, they're attempting to push the boundary or trying to ride the line, and I get that. So that made that scene even more scary. That made that scene scary in its right reasons, as them trying to like get out of that cabin and seal the door, which we get that parallel between Captain Miller and Dr. Stark, when Captain Miller is trying to save Stark and trying to redeem himself from losing his previous partner. Like, that was cool. That was a good moment, but that just wasn't the way to do it, because in any case, all of you would have been dead. All of you would have been sucked out and all that stuff. So, I mean, as someone that's, that loves to delve into like the science of space and just of astronomy and just, just general like space travel, when I saw this movie, I was unfortunately let down in the way that they depicted space.
Yeah.
But I get it. It's the 90s, and obviously the knowledge that we have then, which, I mean, I know that's only like 30 years ago or so. But again, that's a long time. That's a long time, and for us to build knowledge to what we know now. So obviously they knew less than what we know now. So they had to take liberties to some degree. And while that's cool and everything, that's one thing that I kind of got. If I would have saw this in the 90s, if I would have saw this when I was like, 7 years old, oh God, this movie would have gave me nightmares. It certainly would have.
Right.
But now, obviously, watching as a 24-year-old dude, being audited 3 times, like, I'm a grown man. Like, I've seen some shit. So obviously this movie didn't really like scratch my frightened bone, so to speak. You know what I mean? I don't know. It was like funny bone or whatever. I don't know.
Scratch my frightened bone. That kind of makes me want to throw up. I don't know. Overall, man, I think Event Horizon is a very cool concept. I just think it was not a bad execution by any means, but it fell short in a few different areas. I do like the story. I think it's an incredible story. I think we didn't even really talk about this, but the portrayals were really, really good. I thought every one of the actors did a great job.
Mhm.
Really, really great job. Sam Neill was scary at the end. He was. I mean, and we didn't even really talk about that when he kind of gouged his eyes out and he kind of looked all like.
Yeah, do you want
Like,
to can we talk about Sam Neill's Dr. Weir like throughout the entire movie? Like this entire time he was for like
it was a great
70%
character
of the
arc.
movie he was a total skeptic of what was going on.
Let me ask you a
Until he
question.
finally succumbed to I guess his wife.
Let me ask you a question. Naturally, what was I gonna say? Oh, and let me know if if you're watching after the fact or if you're in the chat right now. Do you think that Dr. Weir started this journey to the Event Horizon knowing what he was going to do? Or do you think this was a Jack Torrance situation? Again, kind of parallels with The Shining. Do you think this is a Jack Torrance situation where over the course of the film, this presence, this darkness from this other dimension warped his mind into doing what it wanted?
I would agree to the latter. Yeah.
So it warped him as the film went on. He didn't go
Yeah.
to the Event Horizon being like
Yeah.
with his, like finger click and master plan.
Mm.
So,
Like,
and I kind of
because
agree with that.
I
That's
think
almost
because
scarier.
yeah, I think it was because like I said in the beginning of the podcast, like Dr. Weir was more intrigued with his creation of the ship. Like he wanted to be able to know if the ship can travel through a black hole.
And that was his fault. He did to a fault. He wanted to know if the thing worked. He wanted to know what was on the other side of the portal. But again, that kind of ended up being his downfall because this presence used that to get him to do it. I mean, he essentially became Pinhead. Like that's kind of what
much.
he became.
So
and it looked cool.
my
I mean, he looked
analysis of him.
terrifying.
Yeah, my analysis of Dr. Weir was he created this ship to have interdimensional travel, and he unfortunately lost it, thus sinking him into his job, into his career, into his life's work until it came back again. So whenever he found out there was a crew coming to rescue or salvage what's left, he was on top. He wanted to be in it. And as he got closer to the ship, the ship constantly kept playing with his mind, kept playing with his guilt of his wife's suicide, but still pulling towards his interest and curiosity with what happened to this ship. It kept pulling that mentality towards him to the point where he was finally succumbed to, I guess, I guess he was apparently just submitted to the ship, and then at that point he just lost full control, and he was working at the whim of this haunted ship / space demon, and that made his character probably the most interesting, so to speak. I hated him in the beginning because he was just a complete cynic saying, no, it's just space travel. There's no way there could be this type of interdimensional entity in this ship. But then as the movie progressed, he slowly but surely started realizing what was going on. But by the time he did realize what was going on, it was too late. He was already a part of the ship, or a what's it called, an extension of the entity that is the darkness.
Yeah.
Which
and
made
I will say it
frightening, so to speak.
It does intrigue you, like when once we get like zombified, cut up Sam Neill, and he's talking to Lawrence Fishburne, and they're kind of fighting back and forth in the room with the portal contraption thing. When you get the I forget exactly what he says, but Sam Neill says something like, "Oh, you've seen nothing yet of like where we're going." Or whatever, and it does get to It's like you get flashes of people being tortured, and
it was everyone in the crew.
It looks gross,
and
it's almost like it does intrigue you. Like, what is it though? Is it another dimension? Is it hell? Is it the future? It's intriguing, but it's also like again, maybe you don't need to know. Maybe you don't need to know what it is. It's just the idea of, again, it's like a fear of the unknown. It's like, what is this thing?
Yeah. It
So
one interesting insight. It's the ship. Pretty much the movie is doing what the ship it did to the crew, which is playing off your internal fear. So like it didn't really
I don't like
describe.
that.
It didn't really
It
describe.
kind of freaks me out.
I know, right? It didn't describe. It didn't want to describe what was going on. It wanted you to use your imagination to think, what is the darkness? And then when it gave you those little like snippets of the crew being tortured, it's like,
Yeah.
okay, now we have like maybe what you were thinking of was this, and that made it even more frightening. So I do understand this, guys. I do understand what this movie was going for.
Yeah.
My thing is, I don't think it was. I think it could have been executed much better. Like this movie has potential for a reboot.
Oh,
This is
it's
a
got a
movie
ton of
I
potential.
would 100% be okay with rebooting.
Now, let me get your thoughts on this. There is an Event Horizon series being planned by Paramount, headed by Adam Wingard, same guy who directed Godzilla vs. Kong.
A series, though. Yeah, I could see that.
I know. I could see this as a series too, and I think if they do an adaptation, I think they need to bring it into the 21st century, because again, what was futuristic 25 years ago?
Obviously, we know, yeah.
Is not, is not what's futuristic now. So I think they need to bring it into the 21st century. I think we need, honestly, it'd be cool, dude. What if they even did this? Like, what if like different episodes focused on, you do the build up, you get into the story, and then you have like different episodes that focus on different characters and what the ship is doing to them, like psychologically. Like, and you really dive into, like, maybe you're doing flashbacks of them on Earth with their families and their past trauma. Like, I don't know, dude. It's a cool idea for a series, and that's kind of what we've talked about from the very beginning with this. Like, there's so much potential with it. And again, I'm not sure. I love Paul W.S. Anderson. I love what he did with Resident Evil. He's married to Milla Jovovich, which is amazing. She's incredible.
If she's gonna be in the movie, I'm gonna fucking die.
I've always been a big fan of her. Plus, she's beautiful.
Yeah.
But I just think that it could have done things a little bit better. And again, maybe that's not his fault. Maybe there was studio interference. Maybe there was there were disagreements. Again, there were issues with the production of this. And again,
I think it was the wrong time to do it. I don't think the technology and the way studios work now.
Oh, I feel like I remember. Let me look this up. Give me.
But do you understand what I'm saying? Like the movie industries in the 90s aren't exactly what they are now in regards to like the freedom some directors have. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay,
So,
I was right. I was correct. Okay, so listen to this. This is on, I know, Wikipedia. The film had a troubled production, with filming and editing rushed by Paramount when it became clear that Titanic would not meet its projected release. The original 130-minute cut of the film was heavily edited by the studio's demand to Anderson's consternation. So, I mean, he was not happy. We didn't get his cut. We didn't get Paul W.S. Anderson's cut. I find that funny. They were banking on Titanic, man. They were like, Titanic is going to be our big hit, and it wasn't ready. so they released Event Horizon instead. But which Titanic did come out in '97 though?
Yeah, it did. That's what I was confused with. I was like, wow. That's funny how that's connected to the Titanic though.
I know, right?
It's like you got to think. I would love to watch. Like, I think this is an interesting concept. Check out the movies that probably flew under the radar from the movies that were culturally impactful. You know what I mean? Like
Titanic.
Movies that came out around Titanic, movies that came out around Forrest Gump, movies that came out around like what was the other one? Last of the Mohicans, Independence Dance, Dances with Wolves, like all of those movies that are like culturally impactful. Like, I wonder what those movies that came out like, before or after it, I wonder like how those what movies those were, what movies came out during that time, and how they flew under the radar, and like what did they experience because of it? Because those movies, we don't get movies like that anymore, like that culturally like impactful.
Well, and then you have
Obviously, Endgame was the case, and much of these Marvel movies are like, you know, what you would say the Titanic and all that stuff is. But we just most of these movies
though
they just come out. It's kind of the same.
They weren't living in the universe world back then. Everything wasn't. I mean, you had sequels, but everything wasn't a universe. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know.
But
That's
you know
hard.
what I'm talking about? Like these culturally like impactful movies. Like, how did the movies like that came out before or after it just kind of flew on the radar? Like, what movies were they?
Yeah,
I'm probably gonna take some time and look into that because that's an
well,
interesting subject.
That would be a good topic episode as well.
How the fuck do you title that?
I don't know. And it's funny because movies that flew under the radar under bigger movies.
Yeah, right.
You know, but then you have releases where it was like Armageddon. I think it was Armageddon and Final Impact came out.
I know
like
that one right there that came out within like,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just kind of funny how things release and how like different things affect each other. So I don't know, but I am curious to see what they do with the series. I mean, it's something I'd be open to watch. You know what I mean? Especially with Adam Wingard, because I feel like Adam Wingard is a really good like up and coming director. Like I what I've seen of him so far, I really like it, and I'm curious and eager to see what they do with this series as well. You know
I agree.
I mean?
And also, I don't know if you guys would agree with me with the horror community, but I think these horror series hit a little bit better than most of these horror films. You know what I mean? Like you have American Horror Story, which is an anthology, but each season is just as scary and frightening as the other one. And then you had something FX came out with. It was something about vampires. That one was scary enough as is too.
Is that Nosferatu?
No, it wasn't. That's newer. The previous one, I forgot what it's called.
Nosferatu is like a completely different take on Dracula, I believe.
Yeah,
like I thought it was like a modern Dracula thing, which I've said this from the beginning. I really think they should go back and do a modern take on the Universal monsters. Like I think you could find a way to make Dracula scary.
Yeah,
I really do. Like I think that could be really cool. But yeah, man, I mean, even like there's a lot of people that think that, you know, when the rights issues are resolved with, which there's not really rights issues, it's just a matter of like, I think deciding what Wes Craven's estate wants to do with the Nightmare on Elm Street. There are a lot of people, and I'm not opposed to it, that think that they should turn a Nightmare on Elm Street into a series. That you do like, you show Freddy be like before he even dies and becomes like Ghost Freddy, like showing Freddy just as a serial killer in the first season. You know what I mean? And then it's like it ends with the tribe. Like maybe the first season ends with them burning him alive, and you get teased like Ghost Freddy, and then you can do like a Freddy's Nightmares kind of thing where it's just like, I mean, you could the possibilities are endless. That's the cool thing with the TV series is like, you know,
you can expand these stories and make it even more. You can make it even more like. You can make it more character driven, story driven, as compared to like in a movie where it's like, okay, we need exposition, we need scare factors, and we need gore. Like, how can we get that in a hour and 40-minute movie? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, there's no time restrictions into making a story. So which is why I'm interested in seeing. I want to see this new Chucky series and see how that goes. I've heard some good things about it.
I haven't watched it, but and I mean, I don't know, maybe I know there's some rumors and some speculation about there possibly even being like a Halloween series after Halloween Ends is done. Not that picks up from Halloween Ends, but like reboots some things. I mean, I'm not going to get into specifics on all that right now because I don't know the specifics. We are going to do a deep dive episode into like what happens after Halloween Ends too, just because I think there's a lot of discussion to be had there about like where do you go? Do you leave Halloween alone? Do you continue Halloween? Do you reboot it? Like, what do you do? Because there's a few different avenues, but it's an interesting time because there are different avenues to, and especially for horror, because horror is such a diverse genre. Like there's so many different things that you can do, and you can go kind of wild and crazy. And these, streaming platforms and the big screen and video games and Netflix series and HBO series, and just like there's so many different avenues. But then again, and I actually thought about this the other day, like look at Texas Chainsaw though. Where is that at?
I know.
It can almost I feel like it can be really great, but it can also be like a death sentence. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
and you guys
was
can make
thinking,
fun of me
dude,
with Texas Chainsaw Massacre guy, but I mean, look at the movie. Where the fuck is that movie, right?
For real though, that movie dropped off the face of the earth.
It really
Like,
did.
where did
We
that
got
go?
a poster, and then that was it.
Well, literally, we got a poster, and it was like in 2021, the face of evil or the face of terror returns or whatever, and it was just like,
Where is it?
What? like,
And
what are you talking about? Like, where did he go?
I get it. COVID could have probably played a factor in it.
Well, yeah.
But look at all these movies that just came out despite COVID.
But I think there's something else going on there, because I believe they've sold. We even did an update on that. I think that's one of our like biggest update videos, like from months ago, where I think that the rights were sold to Netflix. Like the finished product was sold to Netflix. So I don't think it's even going to release on the big screen anymore. And I think I remember hearing that test screenings were terrible. Like people hated the movie. So, and that kind of shocks me, because like the poster was dope. It was a really cool looking poster. They're bringing Sally back. Like there was a lot of cool. It seemed like they were really going to go
There's
for
some
it and
good
do like
potential with
a
this
real
movie coming
Texas
out. Yeah.
Chainsaw sequel. But again, it's just dropped off the face of the earth. So I don't know. The streaming stuff and all these different avenues can be really, really great, or it can be a death sentence for these things. But yeah, I'm excited to see what they would do with an Event Horizon TV series. I'd definitely be willing to watch it.
I would too. I mean, I love space horror. Like space horror it can be it has the potential to be frightening. That's a genre in the horror film, in the horror industry, that just hasn't been tapped yet, but could be so much more scarier. It could be such a different frontier for horror fans to enjoy.
Yeah. And
compared to like the slashers and the supernatural, just space horror in general, it's a new frontier to go through, man. And listen, if Paramount guys, if you want to do an Event Horizon series, by all means do it. I'm 100% open to it. I would love to see what you guys have to create for it.
Yeah. I don't know. So many people think horror is like a taboo thing, or they think it's weird if you're into horror, but like, so just different people, man. Like I think horror is seen as kind of a taboo genre, but like
it is, because you're loving the suffering of people, and that's not really,
but it's not that,
not really known,
not
really
people,
a thing we want to see.
Again, look at Halloween. I always come back to Halloween, but like Halloween's not gory.
I know, but you're talking about the suffering of human beings, and that's
you're saying that's what people think. Everybody thinks it's about gore, though, and horror movies are not about gore. I mean, I know some people like that.
Yeah, and some people do like that, obviously. But what it's just,
it's very,
I don't know, society us, like some like a good majority of society loves to stay within like their safe bubble or safe pocket. They don't want to know like the frightenings of the world, or like the scary parts of the world, which is why people don't really like watching the news, because it's just fear and just fear tactics just shoot straight down your throat. And like there's like some people just want to stay within their safe little bubble and watch a good comedy. I get that. I get that, guys.
For me, I'm always about a good story, whether it's a video game, whether it's a movie, whether it's a TV series. I'm all about a good story. Like if it's got a good story, I feel like it's successful. So Art, I do see your chats, buddy. You are getting it in the chat. I love it. And we're gonna answer some of your questions and stuff. But real quick before we do that, Miguel, the infamous question.
Oh, you want my rating, don't you?
Your
I
rating.
I feel
of
like I'm
Event
gonna get.
Horizon.
I hope I don't get. Oh my god. Okay,
I'm usually
so
the one getting nervous about this. What the hell are you doing?
I know because this is one of the movies I was actually like really like interested in because again I love space and I'm starting to love horror as you guys can see, but space alone, space films I love so much. But unfortunately with this movie, like
But
I gotta give it like it gets like a 4.8 for me, man. It's a
wow,
4.8.
I'm actually
Yeah,
higher than you. I'm kind of shocked.
yeah.
For me, I gave Event Horizon a 5.2. And again, that's not to say it's bad. It wasn't a bad movie, but it fell short for me in more places than it succeeded. And
Yes.
again,
My
I
thing
think
was
the
my thing was that
concept
there
is
was
great. It's a
yes.
phenomenal concept. The acting was great. The
Mhm.
concept is great. The horror elements were great. But again, my biggest thing, and I think it's the movie's biggest issue, it just drags. Like there are so many moments that I like you could have just snipped out of the movie, and it just
Yeah.
would have made it so much more cohesive, you
Mhm.
know.
And guys, listen. Those of you that are watching this now or after the fact, like please drop in the comments what I'm missing from this movie. Like, is there any type of information that I'm missing from this movie that would enhance the experience? Because
Right. We always want to hear from
understand
you
this.
guys.
I want to hear from you guys about this movie so much. This was an interesting concept. When my buddy told me about this, it sounded absolutely insane, and I was 100% hyped for it. But I was unfortunately let down by this movie.
It
But
was a little bit of a letdown. I'll
I
agree.
see the potential that this movie could have had. And I'm
Absolutely.
excited for the Paramount series. But in regards to this movie alone, if there's anything that you could offer me or tell me that would help enhance my experience, like by all means, drop in the
For sure.
comments and let me know because you have no idea how much I wanted to like this movie.
I know.
Especially
I was
say it.
excited too, and I still had a good time watching it.
Mhm.
Honestly,
Yeah,
I'll pick it up on
I
Blu-ray
enjoyed
at some
watching it
point.
with Brad and
It was
Julia.
fun.
But if I would have saw this by myself, I really would. I would have sat and be like, "What the fuck did I just watch?"
It
Essentially.
was fun. So Art, let's get to your chats, buddy. Our good friend Art is getting this chat going. Would you guys rather be lost in space or underwater forever?
God damn, that's a interesting question because you're pretty much asking, what are you more fearful of, space or underwater or just the sea?
I have questions. Am I gonna die either way? I mean,
Yeah.
can I breathe? I mean, is
Think of it like this: you're in a ship or a shuttle. You're in a submarine, but you're lost in underwater, or you're in a ship and you're like Sandra Bullock and you're just lost in space.
all right. See, I'm telling you, it makes a difference. If I can swim, if I can breathe underwater, and if I can swim underwater, that would be awesome. I think I'd rather I think I'd rather live underwater than live like on Earth, like or like on land.
I don't know, man. I don't
Lost in
know.
space, either one would be terrible because I think whether you're in a submarine or a space shuttle, like it would get so claustrophobic and so lonely, like it would just be miserable. Like I think I would rather be lost in space because at least I don't feel as like water, like there's nowhere to go. Like you crave being able to be in the open. At least space feels open. At least your mind can kind of wander a little bit. You know what I mean? You can see clear. I don't know.
For me, it would probably be space because again, space is just an interesting topic for me. I just the idea of like being lost in space and just traveling. If I was living for like ever, if I had the ability to just be immortal, I would be lost in space. I would 100% enjoy that other than being underwater. Also,
Really?
yeah, because it's unlimited. In underwater, you have some sorts of limitations. But if I was immortal, if I was just immortal and I was lost in either one of these, I would choose space 10 times a Sunday because as just a normal human being, as a human being, lost underwater, my guy, there's like a theory going around that NASA used to venture underwater, but then all of a sudden they did a complete 180 and went to space, and everyone's like, "Oh, why?" Because it's because it's stuff that they found underwater. Like there's so much we don't know about the sea that
That's
makes it
true,
much more frightening.
dude. That's
Which
true. And
again, listen, guys, look, there is so much. Like I would say, the space is scary. It is scary. Underwater in the sea, in the deep blue sea, that is another level of scary because
here's
we
the
do
thing, though,
not
like,
know what's under there.
I've always loved the ocean. I've always had a weird fascination with the ocean. Like I mean, I grew up near the ocean. I know, like, I live in Kentucky now, and I miss living by the ocean because, I mean, I know, and it's funny because I've even had this conversation with so many people. There are a lot of people who have a phobia of open water, of the ocean. They will not swim in the ocean. And for me, like, I swam in the ocean all the time. Like that was like
Yeah,
that's
but
normal for me. Like that's
can you see the beach?
I mean, yeah, you can see the beach,
Okay,
but
just imagine if you could not see anything. All you
like
saw was just water.
like the thought of, I know, like, and I'm not talking like you're walking like knee deep in water. I mean like swimming to the point. I mean, my dad and I have literally swam to the point where the lifeguards have called us back. Like you're at the drop off. Like you're like you can't feel anything underneath of you. And like that doesn't bother me. And for whatever reason, people get like completely phobiaed out. Like they freak out at the thought of that. I don't even know how I got. How did? What are we even talking about here?
Because would you rather be lost
Yeah, but I don't.
underwater or lost in space?
I don't know. I was I was going somewhere with that, and I don't know where.
He's trying to defend his love for the water, but he really
I
doesn't.
am though.
He doesn't. Like, I'm sorry. Like, you really don't
Oh,
understand
I
the
know where I was
level.
going.
Okay.
I know where I was going. Sorry, but like you said, we know more about space than we know about the ocean.
Yeah.
That's scary.
Yeah.
We have, I believe it's gone up. I think we've actually, think about everything, all of the marine life, all of the plant life, all of the extinct species. I think we have actually explored 5% of the water on Earth.
Yep. And that's
5%.
scary as fuck. And it's different. It's different with space because it's an interesting topic with space. It's the most curious thing is the fact that we are moving. Space is growing. It's continually growing. And there's a thing Neil deGrasse Tyson said that keeps him up at night, and I can't really describe it. It's the fact that we are continually expanding, but the distance that we are from the point of where it's moving, it's so many years or like hundreds of years away from us that we will never know where we're going. And that's interesting enough. What makes it scary with the underwater is the fact that that's it. There's nothing that we can go there, but no one wants to. And the question is why? Why the fuck do we not want to go there? Why do we not want to go there? Why do we want to continually want to expand and find space, but we don't want to know what's down here in the water? Like, is Cthulhu really fucking down there? Like, I don't know. Like that's not something I don't want to know. Okay, I don't want to awaken something unless it's Godzilla. And by all means, awaken that motherfucker up. Like, go for it. But that being said, I would take space over underwater any day. I'm sorry.
Hold on, I'm trying to look something up. Hold on, I'm about to blow your mind. So let's see. So, okay. So here's, you're talking about the ocean. So we've explored 5% of the ocean, and you got to think 70% of the Earth is ocean. Okay, and this is it's not exactly the same as space, but it's very similar into like why they're scary, because again, it's the unknown. It's like what we just talked about with Event Horizon. So humans have explored, the deepest humans have gone is 10,927 meters into the ocean. The Mariana Trench is 11,000. So you still have like over 1,000 meters of unsafe. And of course, it's the Mariana Trench. I mean, like, there's no sunlight. It's not like they've explored, like, you know, like they know everything that's down there. I mean, like, they've gone down and back up. Like, that's it. I mean, it's terrifying. And again, it's the same kind of thing. Isn't it funny how there's that parallel
Of what?
Like between space and between the ocean? Like, they're very similar in a lot of ways with like what we know and what we don't know. You know what I
like
mean?
we are, our sense of reality and what we know is so small that the idea of just exploring outside of what we know right now is scary enough.
It's
I found
it's hard to wrap your brain around.
It's hard to wrap your brain around it. And I found what Neil deGrasse Tyson said about like what keeps him up at night. And he said something about like the dark energy in the future will render the universe so large, having accelerated so significantly that all the galaxies of the night sky will have accelerated beyond our horizon. Meaning that space and everything is expanding so far that there's certain parts of space travel that we will never ever experience, because it's continuously going at such a significant rate, and it's going faster than what we can catch. So there's gonna be a point. Yeah.
Jay says, "What are y'all talking about, dude? I don't even know. I don't know how to explain what we're talking about. Basically, we were talking about like why space is so scary, and like there's kind of like a correlation between like there's so much we don't know about space, and there's so much we don't know about the ocean. Like, it's kind of like the same. Like, it's almost like
there's a parallel between one another.
Jaws in you know, I don't know. It's, you know,
and mainly what I was getting at was the fact that with the horror genre, with the horror genre, like you have these two frontiers that you can literally tap into and create horror movies based on underwater and outer space that could really be scary if executed right.
What the hell are we doing?
The ocean is outer space.
What are we talking about? I feel like we're getting way too philosophical on this. I did not expect to get philosophical in this episode.
Because you were literally saying let's not get too philosophical, but no, we jumped into this rabbit hole and we fluffied our dirty white tail.
See, Jay did. I'm the opposite. Like, he says, I hate water I can't see the bottom of. I'm intrigued. Like, I want to know. Like, I was the kid. Like, I would dive.
Bro, hop in a submarine and go. I promise you will go.
But I don't like a submarine. Like, I don't know. I don't think I would enjoy.
You know, there's a part of the ocean where if you go far enough, you are literally going to be crushed. Yeah, you're going to be crushed.
I know. And honestly, even like when they go down to like the Titanic, like, I think it changes your blood pressure. Like, there's something like physically with your body that like changes, like your blood pressure. It literally changes something in your blood, and even like divers can't go up too fast because it'll actually put oxygen bubbles in your bloodstream.
Mm-hmm.
It kills you.
Yeah, and did you know that where the Titanic is so
what the hell
so down? The Titanic is so down below the ocean that it's slowly being deteriorated, and eventually within the next couple of years or the next 5 or 10 years, like it's gonna disappear.
I know.
And researchers are thinking of like salvaging what's left, because if they leave it there, it's gonna disappear.
Honestly, I have a weird I'm gonna be straight up. I have a weird fascination with the ocean. And like, I know Julie is really into space. You're really into space. It's the ocean for me. Like, and I think it's because I grew up next to the ocean. Like, I was at the beach all the time. And like, it's just, I've always had a weird fascination with the ocean. And I have with the Titanic too. And I read an article, like it wasn't that long ago that said like, yeah, the Titanic is like, I mean, all of the, I mean, it's been 100 years of pressure, of nonstop pressure. And I mean, it's already decomposed, like, it's the metal is deteriorating. I mean, it's gonna, they can't salvage it. There's no, and they shouldn't. Too many people died. Like, out of respect, they shouldn't try to salvage it. Like, go down, take your final pictures of it. I think take your final video, go through it one more time. I mean, go through what you can. I mean, obviously, I'm sure it's not safe to go through it like completely, but like salvage what you can of it, and or not salvage, but record what you can. Take your pictures, take your final video, because I think it's getting to the point where it's like, I don't think they should try to bring it up or anything. I think there's actually a movie called Raise the Titanic where it was a movie, like they like tried to raise it and whatever, and like, and you can't. I mean, there's no way. If they tried to pull it up out of the ocean, it would break. I mean, the minute they tried,
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just it's interesting. It's very interesting.
Yeah, we went far, guys. We went far.
We did. We really got down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, thank you, Art, for that question.
You just completely spiraled us, and that, I mean, it was good conversation. It's a lot of fun, man. Where are we at? He says, "I'm so glad I'm in my bed right now." I know. Here's you want to. This kind of freaks me out. Like we're sitting here having this conversation, and like we're just talking about the Titanic. Like the Titanic is sitting down there right now in pitch blackness. Like we're sitting here, but like it's there, and like
shut the fuck up,
like
Brad.
Shut the fuck up. The planet. Like you're talking about space, like the moon is just sitting up there like alone.
Shut the fuck up. You don't know. There's a dark side of the moon that we haven't explored yet either. You realize that, right?
That's
so
fair.
Yeah. It's like, yep, there's so much that we don't know about underwater in space, and that's just scary enough as it is. Like fuck a Freddy Krueger, fuck a Michael Myers, fuck Jason, fuck all those other Chucky Cheese, whoever the fuck that is, doll. They got nothing on just space and the underwater. They have nothing on that.
Yeah.
So
you're not wrong.
That'd be my piece.
Okay, imagine this. There's a whole civilization on the bottom of the sea, and they look up to the ocean as their outer space. What?
Oh my god. We're getting down to like Hollow Earth civilization now. And honestly, yeah, it's the same thing. Like if you think about it, it's like an ant looking at us thinking we're gods.
I'm gonna go sit and meditate after the show is over. I'm just gonna like sit in like silent thought.
Yeah, like our perspective is so. You'll be.
He says, "You go be James Cameron, yo. I'll be on the beach wishing you the best."
He's talking to you, man. He's talking to you.
Is. I know. I would love to see the Titanic, man. I actually have a couple of I have a couple of novels that were written about the Titanic, and I have
oh, if you want, buddy. I have this metal like diorama that I've been meaning to like do of the Titanic. Do you want that? I feel like you and Julia would love to build that thing. It's like a sheet metal diorama.
I don't really want to do that. Build. I also have a book of art. It's like literally, it's a book of like artwork about the Titanic. It's really, really cool. It's just pretty cool. Let's see. You're gonna get some squeeze toys. Art says he's gonna buy you those alien squeeze toys for. What do they say? What do they say when they lift them up?
Don't they mention like the god? Isn't it?
No. Well, they're like the claw.
Oh,
they say like the claw. I think they call it their master. So I forget exactly what they say.
Yeah, but you that right there pretty much like it describes like our perspectives. Like how can I say this? Everybody that you talk to is watching a different movie than you are. So it's like everyone has a different perspective. And that's based on like everybody. It's like when you look at a dog, like what they think of us. When you look at an ant, what they think of us. What the fucking Atlanteans think of us. Like what
the aliens think of us.
Yeah, what the Martian thinks of us. Yeah, like that's really we could be specks of ants compared to those up there. Like that's scary. That's scary to think about. It's not enlightening. Whoever the fuck thinks that's enlightening, get the fuck out. Like I don't know what to tell you.
Oh, Jay says if my supervisor figures out what I'm doing, I'm gonna get drug tested.
I know, right?
We really
If
listen. We went from reviewing a movie to having like serious, in-depth physical philosophical conversation. Like,
well, it's the fact that Event Horizon really it's like going back, okay, going all the way back to Event Horizon and thinking about what it was trying to do.
yeah,
It really tried. Like it was one of the movies that I saw in the 90s that tried to depict the horrors of space.
yeah,
That's my best analysis of that movie. It was one of the first attempts of depicting the horrors of space, and I
right,
applaud them for that. It was just
yeah.
executed. Not
Yeah.
well.
Hey, Jay, Dad, buddy, shoot. How about shoot if you can when you get a chance? Shoot us an email. Because I don't have your email. I didn't see it on your channel. So yeah, man, just shoot us an email. And we'll get that sorted out. So. Yeah, man, that went completely out in left field. I'll tell you what. You know what movie we need to do a purely and simply evil episode for?
What
The Polar Friggin' Express.
the fuck?
I
Where
had
the hell did that come from?
I had a headache this morning. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna watch The Polar Express. I was like, I'm just gonna give it another shot. That is a horror movie. The Polar Express is terrifying. Like it is not a wholesome Christmas movie. I'm sorry. Their eyes are like googly eyes. Like they're literally their eyes face like different directions. Those kids are like kidnapped from their house to go almost die like 17 times. Like,
I don't comprehend. I'm sorry.
have you seen The Polar Express?
I have. I don't think it's scary.
I don't know, dude. It freaks me out. It's weird. It's very weird. Let me know if you're in the comments if you know what I'm talking about. The Polar Express is weird. It's not bad. Like I mean, I say that jokingly, obviously. I don't actually think it's a horror movie. But I mean, like, there's a lot of kids who are afraid of it. Like Julia and I were kind of laughing. I was like reading like parent I was like reading parent reviews about it, and like people's kids are afraid of that movie. So guys, we're about an hour and 42 minutes in. If you have not already, please leave us a like. Our commentary of Event Horizon will drop tomorrow evening at 5 p.m. And you'll get our firsthand reaction of what we thought as we watched. Because again, neither one of us had ever seen Event Horizon. So that was our very, very first time watching it. I think that's going to do it for this episode of Purely and Simply Evil.
I don't think what more we could talk about.
I know. I don't really. I'm kind of at a loss as to where even go. We went from reviewing the movie and talking about our thoughts to
it's just like the commentary, guys. Trust me.
Depth,
when you hear the end of the commentary, we are just as lost as we are now. Like we literally we had this conversation and we're still just as lost as we are.
I kind of feel like I don't know. Like I feel like I'm gonna lay in bed tonight and I'm just gonna be like pondering the universe and like our existence in life. Like I don't know. Like I don't know. It's just gonna be. I'm like just gonna sit thinking about God.
Yeah,
it's just very strange. But guys, please be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok at We Talk the Movies. Again, be sure to watch out for our full commentary of Event Horizon. Drops tomorrow. What is today's day? Drops November 27th at 5:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Next time on Purely and Simply Evil, we are going to talk Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, and that commentary will also drop around or before, either right before or right after that episode premieres as well. Real quick, Art says, "Oh, I love The Polar Express. I read the book as a kid and was an elementary school production." That's cool, man. That's cool. I say that jokingly. The Polar Express is a good movie. It really is. It's a good movie. I say that jokingly. There's just like little things where I'm like, like I don't know. Their eyes freak me out, and it's kind of funny to think. It's just funny to think about it. Am I afraid of the OG Jumanji? No, I love Jumanji.
Some people were scared.
Honestly,
of it.
Really?
Yeah, some people were scared of it.
I always loved Jumanji. I was never afraid of Jumanji. I always loved it. There weren't too many. I'm trying to think. There's not very many films that I'm like that actually scared me. I know when I was like little, I used to watch Jaws from behind the couch. Jaws scared the life out of me. when I was a kid.
I would say the kid shows that really frightened me was probably Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Really?
Yeah. There were scenes in that. There were scenes in those shows that was like, that was really unsettling.
I don't know. I don't know. No, I can't really think of anything that ever really, like, really scared me that much. I don't know.
Well, we'll have to look into that, aren't we?
Yeah, we'll look into that. Guys, take it easy. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. If you're in the States, we hope that you had a fantastic Thanksgiving. And we are very thankful for you guys and all your support and your love. So we will see you on Monday for the next episode of Let's Talk Movies. Guys, take it easy, and we will talk to you soon. Peace.
Peace.